Good evening. Doug Ford announces a massive transit plan for Toronto worth billions of dollars. He's essentially ripping up the city-approved relief line and promising to build one twice the size from Ontario Place to the Science Centre. We begin our team coverage now with a key question. Can the Premier keep his promise and build it better, bigger, faster, and cheaper?
For the first time ever, the Ontario government is taking the lead in building new subways in this province.
And here it is. Doug Ford's transit vision, including what he calls the crown jewel, a 15-kilometre route for a downtown relief line, except it will now be called the Ontario Line. 6 stops with locations still to be determined, but it will run from the Science Centre to Ontario Place. And, this is crucial, divert an estimated 55,000 riders every weekday from the overcrowded Line 1 at a cost of $10.9 billion. And it will move 400,000 more on the new line.
That's 400,000 passengers every weekday.
Doug Ford is promising it can be built in 8 years. That's 2 years sooner than the current relief line plan, which is half the length. How? By not tunneling under the Don River, crossing over it on an elevated track instead, and using a system of lighter, faster, driverless trains that will run separate from the current subway system. Bold ideas, big promises, and risky. There's an election in just over 3 years. If voters don't see progress, it could backfire on the Premier. Are you putting your name on the line here? Are you going to put your political reputation on the line that this actually can be done on time, in the time constraints, and on budget?
100%. I'd put my name behind this any day. The problem with transit in the city, they didn't have the funding. They didn't have the money.
Notably absent from the announcement was Toronto Mayor John Tory, who refused to go today because he was kept in the dark. In fact, he acknowledged he only found out the line would be going to Ontario Place this morning. I know you're still assessing this plan, but on the surface, does it look like it has the potential to be good for the City of Toronto?
I think there are aspects of it that are definitely good, but that there's a lot of questions to be asked and answered at the table.
In contrast, Richmond Hill Mayor Frank Scarpetti was ecstatic. The plan also calls for the Yonge North subway extension to open shortly after the Ontario line at a cost of $5.6 billion.
You've got to give the Premier and his team a lot of credit. They hit it out of the park today.
The official opposition is far less optimistic.
I am sceptical that it is Doug Ford delivering the message, because Doug Ford does have a history of making big announcements, and when those announcements see the cold light of day, they just don't add up.
Ford's transit plan also calls for a 3-stop Scarborough subway extension to be complete before 2030 at a cost of $5.5 billion, and the Eglinton Crosstown West extension to be finished before 2031 at a cost of $4.7 billion. Add in design and engineering costs, and all 4 plans revealed today come with a combined price tag of $28.5 billion. Now, there are so many details that still have to be worked out. For example, what would Toronto's portion of the bill be? Will the feds put in more money? The province is saying it will put in $11.2 billion. When asked, the Premier said if the other 2 levels of government won't chip in, the province will pay for everything.